Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Great.
Are you ready to do this?
Born ready.
What are we doing?
Today we are going to introduce you to our podcast with
Me?
you.
It's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Great. All right. How should I introduce myself? So, we're going to do for these first couple episodes, we're doing a 3-part series. This is part 2. So, part 1 was Jamie's story. Then we're going to have Brooke's story. And then we're going to have our story. Oh, are you going to leave? I thought we were leaving. Okay. So I guess we'll just jump right in then, huh? I'm Brooke, not her ex-girlfriend. And you guys know this is Jamie. Today we're going to be, like I said, going over my stories. I'm just gonna start talking and see what happens.
That's usually when the magic pops off. So
Pops off. All right. Okay, so where do I begin? Oh, we can start here. My kind of my origin story.
you'd be a hero's.
I was a superhero. Throw that out there.
We covered the villain last week.
Oh no, I don't like that. You're the hero of my love story.
Really? Oh.
All right.
It's all about perspective.
All right. Everybody has a journey. Anyway, I'm always journeying. When I was raised very religious, also evangelist family. I wasn't supposed to really do anything, if I'm being honest, except for go to church. And that was really interesting. I knew from a young age that there was something else out there bigger than me, but it didn't quite feel right the way I was taught that it was supposed to be. In regards to practicing the dogma of Christianity. Um, so just the very rigid guidelines that were there, there was a lot of body shaming, there was a lot of sexual shaming. I even just was saying the other day as a child when you're exploring your body, I was taught that whenever I would touch my private parts that was gross and don't touch yourself. That was wild to me because as I got older, like I never even knew what masturbating was until I was in my 20s. Do you know how much trouble I could have saved myself if I would have known that that was okay? A lot. I lost my virginity when I was 14. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But I was very like just everything was wrong if it wasn't going to church, hanging out with people that go to church, doing church camp. Which I enjoyed those activities. It's a little fruit fly. I enjoyed those activities because it gave me community. But I always felt like kind of an outcast. So I was also homeschooled. I went to Christian school. Very sheltered, made to hang out with kids that my family felt their families were nice, but the kids were really mean to me. Um, my family didn't give me like any like support as far as like even my cycle. I mean, I had to teach myself how to use a tampon. Like, we just did not talk about anything like that. It was just really the overarching theme was go to church so you can go to heaven, be a good person, whatever the fuck that means in the Bible. And don't listen to secular music. And if you do these things, then you're going to be great. But if you don't do them, you're going to burn in hell. And don't have sex because sex is bad. It's only to make babies. And the first time I had sex, it scared the shit out of me, but I was pretty sure it wasn't bad. And I didn't get pregnant, so yay. It really became a life of I would just try whatever things. I wasn't like, I guess I should back up. I wasn't a bad kid. Yes, I lost my virginity when I was young, but I wasn't like drinking or partying or any of that kind of stuff really until I was a little older. I would say I didn't start when I was at home, but I did. I did like nearing the end of high school. I started kind of experimenting with stuff and maybe staying out past curfew, but never like got in trouble. And then once I moved out, which I moved out when I was 17, I actually moved in with my pastor and his wife at the time because they were more reasonable than my mother, rest her soul. And I learned that it wasn't the people, it wasn't Christians that were an issue, but it was the ones that took it to the extreme that were the problem. So they were a really safe house for me. I love them to this day. I value that they fought for me and told my mom that I wasn't a bad kid. I just was misunderstood. And they really were supportive to me. I did work my ass off during that time. My senior year, I rode that house was out of the school district, so I rode the city bus to school. And then I rode the city bus to work, and then I rode the city bus home. And I really busted my ass my senior year so I could graduate. I was emancipated, so I was responsible for myself, and I could have done a million things with that, but I just to graduate high school, thank goodness. Once I graduated, I moved back to my dad's house for a short while, and then I moved out on my own, and I haven't been back to my parents' home since. That being said, I'm kind of dancing around all over the place. I'm a hairdresser. That's what I do. I spoil a little bit. My point to that is I had an upbringing that was very restrictive and never felt quite right to me. So I was always kind of on this journey to figure out who I was and why I was there and who I was meant to be around. I'll say I started public school when I was I think I was a freshman. That was a whole nother world to me. Oh my goodness. Being able to meet different kinds of people and understand that there's other unique people out there and, was really eye-opening to me. Uh, Being able to finish, my high school years in a public school was actually really wonderful for me. And then once I graduated, like I said, I lived at my dad's for a short period of time, and then I met my first, probably real serious boyfriend, and I moved to Nebraska with him. I lived in Omaha for several years. That's where I started hair school. That's where I started to really learn more about myself. Kind of really pulled away from the church at that time. I wouldn't say I was like super rebellious, but I was definitely into like figuring out what this life was about. I was a raver back in the late 90s, early 2000s when it was still cool. It's very different than it is now. We were still throwing underground parties and setting up in warehouses with police scanners and doing kind of fun things like that. Threw a couple of raves as well, and then separated with my ex because I continually was catching up having these kind of like online flirtatious relationships. And then I did not know how to handle that. I was taught that anything that was outside of your monogamous box field of vision was not right. It was horrible. It was an absolute blow to you as a partner, and there's something wrong with me, and I'm not fulfilling them. And it was a very dark time for me. He ended up leaving me and going to be with another woman. I was trying to finish hair school. I moved into my own apartment, and I just went through I would call it a depression at the time. And ended up that my dad, I just like to move back once. My dad came and got me and moved me back home. And I finished hair school. I lived in his house, but I was never there. I finished hair school, and the day I got my first job, I moved out, and then I never went back. But I was still like just barely 20 years old at the time. Um, and that being said, I started into the world doing hair. I was still doing parties. I met a group of people here that were really wonderful. I was just always kind of out doing something. And I would say I definitely could never go back and say I never lived a full life. I've had a lot of experiences. I learned young that I liked to travel. So I started, I think, between the ages of 19 and when I had my son at 27, I went to Jamaica, Hawaii. I went to Hawaii for 2 weeks by myself. I had my second serious boyfriend the day I kicked him out from reaching out for me. And again, having these online interactions with other women to get to Hawaii. I went there for 2 weeks by myself. I liked to travel. I knew that there was always something bigger out there. This was kind of this forever search of like what was out there beyond what I was told it was supposed to be. And traveling was a big part of that. I do feel like every time I go somewhere new, I pick up pieces of my soul. And it's so important to me to travel. Um, so let's just kind of like move through this. So you guys understand I'm on this whole journey this whole time of trying to escape this like or redefine who I was instead of who my parents thought I should be. And this notion that if I wasn't a good little Christian girl, then I was going to hell. When I realized I'm actually a really good person and I have a lot of fun and I take good care of the people that I love. And I don't believe that this idea that I have to be this specific way is the way that everyone is supposed to live. So I had my first kid when I just turned 28. I was a single mom of him for pretty much the first 3 years of his life. His dad wasn't in the picture. And then before I had him, I got married and divorced. That was a short-lived marriage. Then I had my daughter. Her and my son are 16 months apart.
Irish twins.
Yeah, pretty much, almost. And then her dad and I weren't together very long, and then we split. And then I was a single mom with the two of them for a period of time. And then I met my second husband, and we were together for a decent little bit of time. I was always chasing this idea that I was raised like you have a kid and you have a family, and then you're a good little girl, right? So I kept trying to create. I had a child. I wasn't married, so I kept trying to create this family. That's why I was going through all these cycles and relationships with these men that looked like they were going to be able to take care of me and my kids. And all the while, I was perfectly capable of doing it myself. I already had a family because I had my kids. And so when I left my second husband, I myself was the one having the infidelity in their relationship. And I just was like, I've got to get out of here and figure myself out. So I left him and spent the better part of the next couple of years really diving deep into my own personal healing. This is where my story probably really comes full circle, and figuring out that I had learned in that time that I knew that I believed in God or a God or the gods, but it wasn't the way I was raised. And I wanted to learn more about that. So I got into energy work. I started receiving Reiki regularly and then realized I wanted to be a Reiki practitioner. For those of you that are not aware of what Reiki is, it is an energetic healing practice. It was huge for me in my healing because I had been doing trauma therapy, for a few years. And that was great. But that to me was all like in my mental space, and my body needed some shifting as well. And so that's when I really started getting into the idea of the mind, body, soul connection, and how therapy is wonderful. And by all means, I encourage therapy to its fullest. But you partnering that with energetic work is just like doing double duty. And so when I started receiving Reiki, it really started moving out a lot of that stagnant energy that was in my body with how I was raised and programmed, and allowed me to lean more into my nervous system instead of my fight or flight. And honestly, truly transformed my life. I wouldn't be here today in this mindset without that part of my practice. So I became a Reiki practitioner. There's 3 levels, and I did level 1 and 2 about 6 months apart. And then in 2020, after COVID, I did my master Reiki certification. And so that's been going on almost 6 years ago now that I've been a master Reiki practitioner. In that time, I met Jamie. We met in 2019. The moment I saw his picture, we met on Hinge. I paid $10 so I could talk to him.
I never messaged anybody, so I didn't have to pay nothing. I had to deal with a lifetime on this.
He thought I was not a real human when I messaged him.
I mean, you're the first person to message me.
And I'm pretty hot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just knew when I was scrolling through the photos on there, I was like, as soon as I saw his eyes, I just thought, I know him. Like, I recognized him. Of course, I've never met him in this version, this human existence that I'm in right now, but I knew I recognized him. He felt very familiar to me, so I had to talk to him. And so I was actually on a cruise that I had won through my employer, and I was, I don't know, in the middle of freaking Caribbean somewhere, and we talked nonstop. And still to this day, I think if you if you ever are around us, people are probably like, these two motherfuckers. We talk all the time. Do we get sick of talking to each other?
Nope.
And we've been together 6 years.
Yep.
I mean, there was a period of time we got sick of talking. But That's a whole nother part of our story. We'll talk about that on the next episode. We talk a lot, and it's great. We don't really bore. That's why another reason why we decided to do this, because we just always have so much to say. But he was the first person I really felt safe like that with. Like, he never got sick of talking to me. He never got sick of me reaching out to him. It was just what I felt like I always needed as far as consistent, meaningful communication. And when we both were at a level of spirituality in our lives and awakening, and so it was really wonderful to connect with him on that, because that's not always common. So we we just started our journey, but we moved in together, and then COVID happened. Quarantine happened just like shortly thereafter.
I believe it was 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun, merging households. But we have 7 kids between us.
Yeah. 8.
No, 8. Oh, yeah,
I
Michaela.
have a whole ass daughter.
That sounds terrible.
We went through a struggle where, she disowned me as a father for a period of time after her mother died. So it is what it is. We're in a great space now.
Yeah. And
So-
I have not fortunate enough to really forge a relationship with her yet, but there's still time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We chatted the other day, so that's good. 8. We have 8 kids.
Yeah. And there was a period that we'll go over where we grew that number to 11. 11. That's ridiculous.
I've had all 5 of my brother's kids in my home at some point or another. So that's where those other children come in. Anyway.
I'm
Whew.
gonna interject one thing here, because I think as part of your origin story, something that has always stuck with me was not only the shoving it down your throat of the dogma and the religion, but at the same time also denying you the same gift that we celebrate, the ability to communicate. As I understand it, you were not really encouraged to be that person. Quite a bit of actually just incredibly insulting things as a father that I've heard attributed to your parents. You're not weird.
Hmm.
You aren't too much.
Mm.
These things that I think, unfortunately, parents, in their attempt to control their kids and keep them in a box that makes them feel safe, it definitely left a bit of a mark on you.
Mm.
I don't think that it plays out now in your life, but it is the key part of the story was these gifts that you have. I mean, you get up and speak in front of people all the time. I personally wish they had been nurtured, because you've become an incredible person in spite of. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think too, like, I was always told I was dramatic, and I'm like, what's wrong with that? It's part of my, what do they call it?
Not your shtick, but
Can't think of the word. It's part of my appeal.
yeah, fair enough.
And honestly, like, my daughter said last night, she's like, I'm so dramatic. And I wanted to be like, no, you're not. And then I was like, yeah, you are, girl, because she was happy about it, So I think you're right. And I was constantly told I was too much, too dramatic, tone it down, weird, different. Yeah, it was a lot. And, I not to think your body is something to be proud of. Oh my gosh. My mom would buy me the most, if you could just picture in your head, the most modest swimsuit in all the lands. And I would have to try on 29 of them in order to find it. And then she would take it home and sew fabric under the armpits, the shoulders, the chest. I've always been a double D, so that was like a thing when I was a kid. The chest, we obviously not a two-piece, for the love of God. A skirt, she would sew a skirt onto it. I was just not taught that my body was something to be proud of. And so that was a lot of that seeking validation through sexual interaction. And it wasn't even really the sex part that I wanted. It was the validation before the sex. Oh, I enjoy that, but it was more about the dance, the making me feel good, the making me not feel weird. And so it was just a lot of that going on. And I was constantly kind of chasing that. Whenever someone would say they loved me, it's why I think I ended up, I don't want to say in as many relationships as I was in, was like, oh my God, they love me. Yay. What I know now is like, hell yeah, you love me. I'm fucking awesome.
Mm.
You know? And that's not in an arrogant way. That's in a very like securely attached to myself, self-love way, which is what we're supposed to get to. That's the journey, is to come to a place where you are securely attached to yourself, which brings me to, I think for me, like having that with Jamie was amazing, but there was a point where I realized that the way I was attaching to it was unhealthy. And so we went through some issues in our relationship. I was pretty beat down because he had some interactions with women that were within the monogamy layout of our marriage at that time were not okay. It wasn't something we had agreed to was appropriate within our relationship. So when that happened to me again, I was devastated. Like, it was really, really hard for me. I think I've shared some of this with him, but I might get a little bit. It happened on a couple different occasions. And we did therapy, and he was in therapy, and I did some therapy. And I know at the end of the day, we both know we're supposed to be together. Like, I've left pretty much every relationship since that first relationship that threw me into depression. I swore I'd never get walked on like that again. And so I was really good at being very clear when I ended relationships and being able to end them myself and prepared to walk out the door and survive and take care of myself and my kids. And it was easy for me to picture doing that. But with Jamie, there was always this like, it wasn't like I couldn't live without him, but there wasn't a storyline where I could imagine my life without him. Just didn't happen like it had in the past. It's so hard to explain, but like there was just, it was always going to be us. Or there just wasn't a story. Like it was just like void, if that makes sense. And so I really wanted to figure out why my feelings around what was happening were so different than they were before. He went through some injuries at work. Things got increasingly difficult with just kind of his own personal issues and how then they were affecting our relationship. The last person that I found out about, I really carried that with me for about a year without really telling him what I knew about the interaction they had had that was inappropriate. I gave him lots of opportunities to tell me about it, which he did not take. And somewhere along the way, I one day go, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I didn't do anything wrong. There's just something that I'm not being able to fulfill for him. So I started talking to a good friend of mine about it quite a bit. Our relationship was very strained at the time, but we were trying to figure it out because we knew it was us. We were supposed to be. But in that time, my friend recommended a book to me, Polysecure. 150% recommend that book. It really dove deep into attachment styles. I had always said I will never be poly or E&M because that's so weird. It's a lot of work. How am I supposed to, I can't even manage this guy. How am I supposed to manage more than one man? And what I've learned in my life is whenever I say never, the universe is always like, are you sure? Try it out, and finds a way to get me into that situation. That being said, I read the book. If y'all are interested, read the damn book. It changed my whole perspective. And I was lightly talking to Jamie about this, but we didn't really dive into it. I don't even know if I let him know I read the book initially because the first 3/4 in the book was really about me. I insecure, avoidant, a detached attachment style.
And my attachment style is the anxious attached, which tends to go like this. Me, or that's just a good way. This is what our attachment styles do. This is where we're at.
So, I was always feeling like I was giving him the most amount of love ever. I never looked at another man, got compliments from another man. I had put myself in such a space where I didn't need any of that. I didn't want it. It was all Jamie, and he was not able to even see or reciprocate or fully envelop himself in the love that I had for him. the point to it for my story is that it was really hard for me. So through that year, and I knew this is how I am, you guys. And I'll go through this in my coaching too. So if you want to get into the coaching, just let us know. But I always want to know where I can make a change. What can I learn? What's the lesson? How can I evolve? The only person that I am responsible for is myself. I cannot own his feelings. He cannot own mine. I'm not responsible for his feelings. So if I'm feeling some sort of way, what's meant for me and what am I meant to let go of? And in this whole struggle of this almost a year where I would like be so stressed when he was at work and all these different things. And I was taking like Valium as needed to like calm these panic attacks that I was having because I was beating myself up so much. And what I realized was that despite what I had been taught as a child, and despite what I had been told, and despite what I had been telling myself, there's something wrong with me. I'm always doing my best. I love love. And who am I to keep someone that I love from feeling love in another way? Now, does this justify the behavior? No, because within the context of our marriage, it is not what was agreed to. It wasn't the actions. It wasn't the stuff that happened that bothered me. It was the dishonesty. At the core of it, when I pulled away all of the programming beliefs that I was supposed to have, jealousy, fear, rage, all of those things, which none of them I never raged out on you about, because I don't, that in my healing so far, I knew that wasn't going to get me anywhere. At the core of it was the fact that he was being dishonest with me. And that's what was the most hurtful thing to me. It wasn't even what he transpired. It was the fact that he was never able to be honest with me about it. And so through that, I also realized with my attachment style that I was anxiously attached to his consistent communication. I was using it as a crutch and a way to avoid dealing with my issue of knowing that I am enough. It's weird for me because I never didn't like myself, but it's that core root problem of rejection that needed to be addressed in order for me to be fully myself. And that's where Polly and Ian come in, because I now am no longer ashamed of my body, how I carry myself, my energy, I'm not weird. I'm not too much. I'm just enough. If I'm for you, great. If I'm not, great. My want to interact with him is not because I need that to feel good about myself, but because in doing it, it feels good to me. It's not for a need. I want to just be very clear, and I say this a lot. I am not about toxic positivity. I am about understanding who you are and what you need to feel safe is already within you. And that way, when you have the tools and the understanding and life things happen and you feel unsafe, you can address it and deal with it instead of allowing it to control your life. Amy and I separated for about 3 months. We didn't hardly talk to each other. And he moved to another state. And I am not a do-over person. I've never repeated a relationship ever until now. Never. You like how I said that? I said never. Until now, when he messaged me and told me he'd been saying gently that he wanted to have conversation with me, and I'm like, I'm not ready. But for some fucking reason, I can't quit talking to you. I don't know why I'm still talking to you. I have no reason to still have you in my life. And yet here I am. So don't take that for granted. And I don't want to actually talk to you right now.
I think I did a pretty good job of stepping in.
He did. He did really, really well. And then he saw my Instagram. Now I have his girlfriend, and he sent me a text. And I got really defensive. I still consider all of this my story, even though it's kind of our story, because this is my evolution of myself and how I chose to handle what I originally thought was rejection in our marriage. But that being said, he saw the, lifestyle stuff on there. And so I got really defensive, and he goes in a very calm, disarming voice, "Are you even going to ask me?" And I go, "Well, what do you think about it?" And he goes, "I think you're fucking hot." And I was like, oh, short into that story, because I truly leaned into who I was and felt free in myself. he was able to see me for who I was. And because he had run away and truly leaned into himself and figured out who he was without me, he was able to embrace this version of me and find beauty in it instead of being afraid of it. And Polly and E&M to me is knowing that I am here to give and receive love. That is why I'm here. I'm a being of light and I am not meant to restrict that. And as long as it's done with clear communication and care and respect and love, then I'm supposed to be complimented by whoever the hell wants to compliment me. And I'm supposed to embrace it and feel good about it and share my body however I want to and um, experience love and attention and affection and sexuality with whoever it's meant to be shared with. And it's okay for it that it makes me feel good. And I'm not a whore. And hell yes, if I'm a slut, I mean, I can't tell you how my whole life I had judged myself because I don't even know how many sexual partners I've had just trying to feel like I wasn't weird. And I had been told I should be ashamed of that my entire life. How many people have you slept with? Have you slept with? I don't know.
I don't think I ever asked you that.
No, Jamie actually never did ask me that. I told him it's not a good question to ask because I couldn't answer it. And he respected it. I will say he never showed me jealousy or contempt for that part of my life and clearly embraces it now. And when I go out and I have dates and he's had a good time, the amount of men that I entertain is really up to me. There's no restriction from him. And sometimes I'm here for it all the time, and sometimes not. Just depends on life and who it is. But also, we've discovered that we like to have a couple of stuff together. That's really exciting and fun for us. So that's been really wonderful. But I think at the end of the day, it was really my journey so far has just been about having the most deeply passionate, intimate love with myself. And because I can be that way with myself, I can experience it with others and my husband in a way that I never could before. So that's why I embrace the lifestyle. That's why it's important to me. It really has been freedom. And I always thought, oh, it's going to be so hard. It's actually less work because I'm not putting all of these rules and restrictions around how I'm supposed to behave. And I think of monogamy much like I think of Christianity and organized religion in general, if I'm just being honest, is meant to control people and show them that they're supposed to do things this way. And women also come up at the forefront of that. I'm not saying it's not hard for men either, but people in general are meant to experience giving and receiving love in a myriad of ways. And that's why I look back and I think I have 3 babies' daddies. I've been married 3 times. I've had all of these lovers. And I've kind of been this way my entire life. I just didn't know that it could be okay. And so it's really wonderful for me to be here and be this version of myself. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it in this way. And if we're being honest, Jamie and I have always talked about having this sort of, I don't want to say coaching, but really like way that we talk about our lifestyle and our stories so we can help others. And now we're here.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is there's a lot of people that are just not conditioned to lean outside the box, and we definitely are. And I think just talking about it in the way that we do, I mean, at the end of the day, if one single person comes away with a different perspective of themselves and can relate to what we're doing, then that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
You got to have a story.
We do. And I think that it's great for people to see that there is no such thing as normal. It's whatever works for you. I have people message me already, like even with the small amount of followers I have, about how it's helped them to see this transformation in my life and asked me how it works for me and how I got here. And to know that the way that they are is more normal than not normal. It is okay. You get to make the rules of your life. And if religion is helpful to you, I'm not condemning that. I'm just saying, I encourage you to not let it be something that dictates how much you love yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're always going to have you. If you can't look in the mirror and really love who you see, then no one else is going to be able to value you the way you deserve and need to be valued.
Yeah.
So,
You know how I feel about organized religion. I don't, my thoughts on it, on spirituality, is it's a personal journey anyway.
yeah.
Got to be right with yourself, and whoever, whatever, comforts your spirit. I think really what happens a lot of times are the human elements of it interject.
Get in the way.
Yeah. I think, it's hard enough having your own insecurities. It's really hard when you have everybody else's insecurities placed on you as rules on how to conduct yourself.
For sure.
So
a lot of that comes down to reprogramming your nervous system or fight or flight system, or the way that you think. This is a lot of what I teach when I help people work through some of these things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of at the end of the podcast. So we're launching some really cool things. You're going to be able to book coaching sessions with me. I kind of call it, I put a little lifestyle coaching. So that's going to be a link on my Instagram, Not Average Partners. I'll put it in Patreon. You also, stuff in Patreon is live. We have memberships there. We have kind of a starter where you get early access to the podcast. So those drop every Friday. And you also can have tiers where Janie's been working really hard on a Discord channel. So we have paywall tiers to that too, where you can have really spicy content with us and live chats and lives. We have a lot of really cool stuff planned. And then we have a tier that's like really adults only, and that also has a Discord channel attached to it. So if you're in that adults only content Patreon, then you also have access to the Discord one. And then we're going to start doing something that's kind of like a speed dating. If you want to book some time with us to sit down and chat with you, about 30-minute segments, we can grab a bite to eat with you on Zoom. We can chat about what you did today. You can tell us a little bit about yourselves there. The sex operator situation is not going to be happening. We won't be doing any phone sex, but how many people crave human connection? That's really what speed dating is going to be about.
And I mean, that's kind of my poly story is, it's the connections for me.
Yeah.
That's really,
I mean, we both work really well off connections. He's more,
sapiosexual.
sapiosexual.
If you got smarts, I'm down.
If you got some brains.
I'm not talking euphemism here.
So we're going to be adding those things in. So just keep your eyes and ears open for that. And, support us as we continue to support you in your journey, and know that we can share because we've been there. Ooh.
I want to point this out about what we are doing. It's not all paywall. A lot of the self-help stuff is accessible. I specifically built a Discord channel to where Brooke's genius intuition can be accessible. The Reiki, the somatic practices. I can't tell you, just in the time we've been together, the work she's done to expand these different abilities, these different modalities to affect other people. Of course the titties are paywall because they're fucking fantastic, and yeah, it's worth it. But I just want to make sure, for me personally, I just want to have a safe community.
Yeah.
Where people that have questions and don't know where to go. Look, I don't have all the answers. and I'm running into a wall all the time trying to figure it out. But I'm kind of built to do that. Like, I don't mind, I'm a skateboarder. I'll throw myself down any sets of stairs to get to the end result of something, beautiful and unique, because that's just where I'm at.
Let's not literally throw yourself down any stairs, though.
I mean, how do you think we get down on a skateboard?
This,
I know. Listen,
him and stairs have a really fucked up relationship. I'm just
we've been, I don't want to say mortal enemies because, I'm retired from skateboarding. I need my legs, but, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So listen, check it out. Patreon.com/Instagrams are Not Your Average Boyfriend, Not Your Average Partners, and Not Your Average Girlfriend. YouTube channel, Not Your Average Podcast.
Yeah.
Brooke and Jamie B.
The first one's up. One's up.
So check us out. We'll see you on the next episode. Like Jamie said, not everything is paywalled. I want to be clear about that. But when you want to dive deeper or you want the adult content, that is.
Yeah. I mean, clearly we're going to have some general stuff up, some general practices, but not everything is going to fit everybody. However, we do have the ability to kind of get to know you, really dive deep and see if there's a way we can help.
Yay.
Word.
Okay, bye.
Bye.